suppose the best place to begin is with the letter that arrived in the middle of June. The envelope was old-fashioned, the paper yellowed, and there was a faint, briny smell that immediately made me think of the ocean. The stamp bore the seal of a county clerk in Massachusetts, and when I tore it open, an even older sheet of stationery fluttered into my hands. The words were written in the loopy, hurried script of someone writing by lantern light, and they were signed by my college roommate, Alan, who by all accounts had vanished without a trace more than 6 months ago. "Ruth," it read, "if you get this, it means the mailboat made it through one of his moods. Don't come after me. Don't try to find Ravenwood. There are things here you cannot imagine. The fog listens. The fog remembers. If by some mistake you ignore this, know that you may already be in danger the moment you hear the stories. Tell my mother I love her. Tell my sisters to stay away from the coast. I'm sorry. Don't come." I read that letter sitting at my desk in my New York apartment, the noise of the city turned down to a distant hum by my shock. In his last messages to me, Alan had mentioned taking a job researching obscure New England legends for an online magazine. He'd always had a thing for urban myths and ghost towns, so I didn't think much of it when he said he'd be driving up the coast for a few weeks. He'd even joked about maybe finally getting to use his vintage compass and lantern. When he stopped answering texts and calls, I just assumed he'd found a place with poor reception. It wasn't until his family contacted me in February that I realized he was missing. And now, more than 4 months later, here was this letter telling me to stay away. Of course, I did the exact opposite. I told myself that I needed closure, that maybe Alan was stranded and waiting for someone to come rescue him, that the letter was just the result of his overactive imagination. If you had asked me then, I would have said it was because I was worried about my friend. But there was another part of me that read the lines about fog that listens and felt a shiver of curiosity. I had grown up on ghost stories. My grandmother told me tales of howling banshees and will-o'-the-wisps that led travelers astray, but always in a way that felt safely distant. Suddenly, I had a letter suggesting that one of those stories might be true, and it was signed by someone I loved. Curiosity can be cruel like that. Finding Ravenwood wasn't easy. Even with a map, the town wasn't listed on modern GPS systems. The atlas showed a tiny dot on a jut of land not far from Cape Cod, but every road seemed to detour away from it at the last minute, as if the asphalt itself had learned not to go any further. I had to stop at a diner, one of those stainless steel relics with red booths and a faded Route 6 sign behind the counter, to ask an old fisherman about the place. He stirred his coffee slowly, as if deciding whether to answer, then leaned in close, as if speaking the name itself were a sin. "There's nothing there anymore," he said. "Or there's too much. Either way, folks stopped visiting after the storm in '93. Lighthouse went dark. People who went looking for it didn't come back right. Your friend's note was right. You don't go to Ravenwood." "You've been?" I asked. He shook his head. "No one goes. But I had a brother in the Coast Guard. He told me once that there's a break in the rock a mile off the main road, a path you'd miss if you weren't looking. That path winds through marsh and pine. If you hit the hollow, you'll hear the foghorn. Turn around. Or you'll hear the whispering if you're unlucky. Then it's too late." His eyes darted to the window, as if expecting to see mist curling against the glass. Even then, I didn't listen. I slid cash across the counter, thanked him, and followed his directions to the best of my ability. There was indeed a gap in the stone wall that lined a particular stretch of road. It was just wide enough for my car to squeeze through. The path beyond was overgrown, the pine needles thick on the ground, and after a mile, the asphalt gave way to packed dirt. The pine trees closed in overhead, turning the afternoon into twilight. When at last I emerged, it was onto a cliff road overlooking a gray ocean and a town that looked like it had been pulled out of time. Ravenwood wasn't on most maps for a reason. Most of its houses were 19th century clapboard structures, long porches sagging under the weight of age and salt. The streets were cobbled. There was a post office with a hand-painted sign, a general store with barrels out front, and beyond all of it, out on a spit of rock, the lighthouse. Even from a distance, I could see its shape through the fog that hugged the waterline. Tall and skeletal, its top platform hanging over the surf like a watchful eye. No light glowed from it, though the day was already darkening. As I drove along Main Street, people emerged from their houses to watch. They didn't wave. They just stared, faces lined, eyes reflecting the pale sky. A teenage girl with long, braided hair standing on a porch held a cat that hissed as I passed. An older man leaned on a cane and shook his head. I parked in front of the only place that looked like it offered lodging. The sign said, Ravenwood Inn, and got out. The fog tasted faintly metallic. Inside the inn, a bell above the door jingled. The lobby smelled of polished wood and lemon oil, and a fire crackled in the hearth. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 60s, with stern eyes and gray hair pulled into a bun. Her name tag read, Marlene. She looked me up and down, as if assessing whether I was real. "You must be the writer," she said, though I hadn't told her anything yet. "I'm looking for a friend," I replied. "Alan Cross. He was here 6 months ago." Her expression didn't change, but her hands tightened around the ledger she was holding. "Rooms are $15 a night," she said, ignoring my question. "Meals are included. Curfew at 11. Do not go to the shore after dark. Do not open your window if you hear voices. Do not respond to anyone calling your name from outside after sundown. Sign your name here." She slid the ledger toward me with a pen. The page was almost blank. The last entry was from January. "What happens if I ignore the rules?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Marlene's eyes flicked up to mine, and for the first time I saw something like pity in them. "Then you will be the next voice calling from the fog," she said quietly. That night, I lay in the small, neat bed, the inn's quilt pulled up to my chin, listening to the wind. There was no television, no cell service, not even a radio. The town itself seemed to hold its breath. At 10, Marlene knocked on my door and slid a bolt into place on the outside. "For your own safety," she said through the wood, and her footsteps retreated down the hall. I thought about the letter in my duffel bag and my best friend somewhere out there. Curiosity warred with fear. Eventually, I must have drifted into sleep. I woke to a sound like whispering. At first I thought it was the ocean, but as I held my breath, I realized it was coming from right outside my window. The voice was muffled by the glass, but I could make out individual words. "Ruth," it hissed. "Please, please, help me." The voice was Alan's. Every instinct screamed at me to jump up, throw open the window, and let him in. But I could also hear Marlene's warning echoing in my ears. "Do not open your window if you hear voices." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break my ribs. The whispering continued, shifting between pleading and anger. I pressed my hands over my ears and curled into a ball, thinking of every ghost story my grandmother had told me. Eventually, the voice faded, or maybe I passed out from exhaustion. I woke with the morning light spilling grayly through the curtains. my mouth dry, and my muscles cramped. A layer of salt had crystallized on the inside of the window pane. Downstairs at breakfast, Marlene slid a plate of fried eggs and toast toward me. "You look pale," she said. "I heard him," I whispered. My voice trembled. "I heard Alan last night. He asked me to let him in." Marlene's face softened, but only a fraction. If you had, it would not have been him. The fog is a mimic. It knows the sound of our loved ones. It uses our memories like hooks. Did you respond? I shook my head. No, I wanted to, but I remembered what you said. It felt silly, admitting that I had taken the warning seriously. But something about the way she had said it, as if reciting a law, had stuck. "Good," she replied. "That is how he tests you at first. When he knows you're here, he'll start with voices. Then he will move closer. Do not follow him. Whatever he says, that is not your friend anymore." She turned away to wipe down the counter, and I sat there with my coffee, staring at the steam swirling above it, trying to shake the feeling of being watched. The rest of the morning, I wandered the town. Ravenwood was both beautiful and unsettling. The houses that had looked quaint from the outside were, upon closer inspection, weather-beaten and empty. Wooden shingles hung crooked. Curtains fluttered torn in the salty breeze. I did meet a few residents, a group of children skipping rope in front of the general store, their rhyme about the man in the fog making my skin crawl. A lanky man smoking on the steps of the post office who told me that the last time the lighthouse beacon had worked was 30 years ago. A woman with a basket of laundry who warned me not to go near the hollow by the pines. All of them spoke with the same resigned dread, as if this was just how life was and always would be. My real destination was the library, a squat stone building that looked more like a fort than a place for reading. Inside it was cool and damp, the air filled with the scent of old paper. A sign hung from the ceiling. "Keep quiet." Behind the desk sat a man with thick glasses and ink-stained fingers. His nameplate read, Mr. Peters. He looked surprised to see me. "Looking for anything in particular?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. "Local history," I said. "Specifically anything about a disappearance 6 months ago. Alan Cross was here doing research." Mr. Peters frowned. "People disappear all the time," he murmured. "But if you're looking for records..." He rose and beckoned me toward a back room. "Most folks don't like to read the old journals. They think reading about him makes him notice you. But if you've already been noticed, there's nothing in ink that can hurt you more." He unlocked a heavy wooden door and led me into a room lined with shelves that groaned under the weight of ledgers, diaries, and newspapers. The light was dim, the only illumination coming from a small window high up on the wall. "These are personal diaries donated by families over the years," Mr. Peters said. "Some go back to the founding of the town. The ones you want are here." He pointed to a stack of journals bound in cracked leather. "You'll see a pattern. We all have." With that, he left me alone in the archive. I pulled the first journal from the stack. It dated back to 1821. The handwriting was neat, with flourished capitals. As I read, the voice of a woman named Eliza emerged. She wrote about her husband, Jonah, a fisherman who would go out at night and return late, his eyes unfocused. "He says he hears them now," Eliza wrote. "He says the voices call to him from the waves. He told me last night he saw our son, James, standing on the rocks, though James has been dead these 5 months." The entries became more frantic. Jonah would disappear for hours, staring out at the fog. He stopped eating. He whispered to someone unseen. The last entry was a single line. ink smeared as if by a shaking hand. He walked into the fog, and it swallowed him whole. The next journal was from 1890, written by a lighthouse keeper named Franklin. He wrote of days that seemed to repeat, of fog that lay heavy even when the sky was clear elsewhere, of hearing his mother's voice calling him from the shoreline, though she had died in Boston years earlier. "This place is wrong," Franklin wrote. "It is like a mouth that never closes. The light does not pierce it. I shine it out into the gray, and the gray glows back, and sometimes I see faces in the beam." His last entry was dated October 31st. "He has learned to speak my tongue," it said. "He's at the door." There were smudges beneath the words that looked like finger streaks. I read journal after journal, each telling a version of the same story. People came to Ravenwood. They heard voices in the fog. The voices lured them to the shore, and they disappeared. Some described glimpses of a tall figure with impossibly long arms, whose body seemed to dissolve into mist. Others wrote of nights where the stars blinked out one by one until only the fog remained. Over and over, the writers pleaded with future readers to leave while they still could. Amid the old accounts was a more recent spiral notebook filled with messy handwriting. My heart pounded as I saw Alan's name inside the cover. He had left this here, I realized. The first page was dated last December. He wrote about meeting Marlene, about being told not to listen to the fog. "Ruth would love this place," he wrote on the third day, and I felt a pang that he had thought of me. As the days progressed, his tone shifted from playful to unnerved. "It whispered my father's voice last night," he wrote. "He's been gone 10 years, and still I reached for the door." He wrote about the library, about reading the diaries that now lay in front of me. "The pattern is clear," he wrote. "It gets inside your head. The only way to fight it is to stay with others. But that's hard because most folks here don't like company. I think the fog likes us alone." His last entry was dated January 4th. I can hear Ruth's voice now, even though I haven't told her I'm here. It says the boat is coming. It says everything will be fine if I just follow the path down to the shore. If anyone reads this, if you're reading this, Ruth, I'm sorry. The rest of the page was blank. My throat closed up. Outside, the afternoon had turned to early evening. The fog had thickened, pressing against the library windows. Mr. Peters appeared in the doorway, his face pale. "You should leave now," he said. "It's starting." "What's starting?" I asked, but then I heard it. A low, mournful bellow that vibrated through the walls. It sounded like a foghorn, but deeper, older. It felt like it was coming from below the ground, as much as from the shore. "The hollow," Mr. Peters whispered. "He's waking. Everyone will be inside by now. You need to get back to the inn. Do not stop. Do not listen." I stuffed Alan's notebook into my bag and rushed outside. The streets were empty. Doors were shut. Curtains drawn. The foghorn blared again. Closer. For a moment I considered running toward the shore, to the lighthouse, to find my friend. But the memory of the journal stopped me. The fog curled around my ankles, as if caressing them. Then I heard my name. "Ruth," it called, from somewhere to my left. "Ruth, over here! It's me! I'm here!" It was Alan's voice again, but also something else. Layered under his tone was a low, wet whisper, like something dragging across sand. "The boat is waiting. I'm holding it for you. Come quick." I ran, not toward the voice, but toward the inn, my bag thumping against my side, the fog thickening until I could barely see my own hands. I stumbled once, catching my foot on a cobblestone, and fell to my knees. The ground was damp and cold. Fingers, or something like fingers, brushed my hair. "Don't fall," the fog hissed, amused. "You don't want to fall here." I scrambled up and lunged forward, slamming into the inn's door. My hands fumbled at the knob. Then it opened, and Marlene's strong arms yanked me inside. She slammed the door and slid 4 bolts into place. "You shouldn't have gone out," she hissed, angry for the first time. "He sees you now. He knows you. You brought his attention in here." She gestured at the windows, and I saw the fog pressing against them like hands, leaving streaks of moisture. Shapes moved within it, pale outlines of faces. "Don't listen," she said. "It's too late for your friend. It might not be too late for you." The next days blended together. The fog never lifted completely, even at noon. Sometimes it would thin, showing patches of blue sky and sunlight, only to thicken again as evening approached. The foghorn moaned at random intervals, and with each blast came whispers, suggestions, pleas. I clung to Alan's notebook as if it were a talisman, reading and rereading his words. I thought about the pattern the diaries had revealed, that the voices lured you until you either gave in or went mad, and wondered why the residents hadn't simply left. When I asked Marlene, she shrugged. "Some have tried," she said. "Most come back. Not because they want to, but because they can't remember how to leave. The roads curve into circles. The forest resets. He is a jealous thing. He doesn't like his people to stray." "What is he?" I asked. "What is in the fog?" Marlene's mouth tightened. "There are as many theories as there are bones in the sea. Some say he is the spirit of a sailor who drowned when the first lighthouse fell. Others say he is older than the sea itself, a piece of night that never learned to become day. My grandmother said Ravenwood was built on a place the world didn't finish, and he is the unfinished part. He hungers for what we have: voices, faces, memories. But these are just stories. What matters is that he is real enough to take us. Don't give him anything more." I listened to her, mostly. I stayed inside after dark. I covered my ears when the voices became too sweet. But the longer I stayed, the more the fog seeped into my mind. I would wake up, not remembering why I was there. I would pour coffee, and for a moment, think I had always lived in Ravenwood, that I had never known city lights or subway trains. Then the memory would return, sharp as shattered glass, and I would clutch at it desperately. I started writing my own notes to myself, sticking them in my pockets, reminding myself who I was and why I was here. "You are Ruth Green," one said. "You live in New York. Alan is missing. The fog lies. I checked them constantly." On the 5th night, I dreamed of the ocean. In the dream, I was standing on the shore, the water lapping at my feet, the lighthouse's dark silhouette looming overhead. The foghorn moaned, and a figure stepped out of the waves. It was Alan. He looked the same, his curly hair wet, his eyes tired. "It's safe now," he said, reaching out. "He says if you come, he'll let me go. All you have to do is step forward." I wanted to. I wanted to more than anything. But behind Alan, I saw something tall and thin rise from the water. Its body was translucent, its edges constantly shifting. It had no face, and yet it had many faces. For a moment it was my father, then my grandmother, then a stranger. Its eyes, when they formed, were hollows filled with fog. Its mouth was the entire horizon. It whispered, not with sound, but inside my skull, and the words were not English. They were hunger. I woke screaming. Marlene burst into the room, her face flushed. "He's gotten into your dreams," she said. "He'll eat you from the inside if you let him. You need to leave." She handed me a canvas bag filled with provisions. "When the sun is highest tomorrow, the fog will thin. The road you came on will open. You must go then. Don't stop for anyone. Don't look back. He will try to keep you. He will sound like every person you've ever loved. Keep going. If you wait any longer, you'll forget there's anything to go back to." I didn't argue. That morning, as the gray sky brightened to a washed-out yellow, I strapped the bag over my shoulder, hugged Marlene, and stepped outside. The fog hung low but thin. I could see the outlines of the trees. The road that had seemed to vanish when I first arrived now stretched before me, pale dirt lined with pines. I started down it at a brisk walk, refusing to glance at the water. Even so, I heard him. "Ruth," he crooned, "you're leaving so soon. It's just getting good." The voice shifted, becoming my mother's, then my grandmother's, then Alan's. I pressed my nails into my palm until they hurt. The pain anchored me. I walked faster. The pines closed in. For a moment, I thought the path was curving back toward town. Panic flared in my chest. I recognized a fallen log, a rock shaped like a skull. Had I already passed these? I looked at my notes. "Keep going," I had written. "He will lie to you." The voices grew louder, overlapping. "You'll get lost," they hissed. "You'll die in the forest. You'll never find the road. Stay. Stay." I broke into a run. Branches slashed at my arms. The fog rose up from the ground like arms trying to grab my legs. I stumbled once, my foot sinking into something soft. I forced it free and kept going. Light pierced through the trees ahead. A shape loomed to my right. I didn't look. It matched my pace, gliding silently over the ground. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it stretching, tall enough to brush the tree branches, its edges dissolving into mist. It leaned close, its mouth opening, and whispered directly into my ear. "Please," it said. "Please. Please." It sounded like Alan, like my father, like everyone I'd ever lost, begging me to stop. I choked on a sob and threw myself forward into the light. I stumbled out of the trees onto asphalt. The dirt path ended abruptly, meeting a paved road lined with a stone wall. Sunlight poured down, warm and bright. I turned and saw the path behind me, already shrouded in mist. A sign that had been invisible when I drove past it before, now read, "Road closed. Do not enter." I leaned against the wall, my heart pounding, and looked back only once. The fog rolled and churned like a living thing. For a moment I saw a shape in it, tall and thin, standing in the gap between worlds, watching me. Then the fog withdrew, melting back into the trees, as if it had never been there. I don't remember the drive back to New York clearly. I know I didn't stop. I know that I kept the windows up and the radio off so I wouldn't hear any stray voices. I know that when I reached my apartment building, I stood in the lobby for a long time, my hand on the door to the stairwell, waiting for someone to call my name. No one did. That was 6 months ago. Sometimes I still hear the foghorn in my dreams. Sometimes I wake up and feel the cool, damp air of Ravenwood on my skin. I keep Alan's notebook in my bedside drawer. I have told his family that he is gone, but not how. Who would believe me? Yet I've decided to tell you, whoever you are, because there is one more thing Alan's notebook said. Something I haven't been able to forget. He doesn't just live in Ravenwood, Alan wrote on one of the last pages. He lives in stories. Every time someone tells his tale, every time someone listens, the fog thickens. He feeds on attention. Maybe that's how he started. Someone whispering about a strange thing in the mist, and everyone gathering close to hear. Maybe the only way to starve him is to stop listening. But curiosity is cruel. If you've read this far, you've already given him your attention. Maybe you're feeling the urge to go to the coast, to see if Ravenwood is real. Maybe you think you're immune to ghost stories. I did. But when you walk near water and you see a line of fog creeping in, and you hear your name carried on a breeze that smells of salt and old stone, remember this. He remembers you. He knows your voice now, and he is patient. He will wait for you at the edge of the world, whispering, until you step into his arms. For weeks afterward, whenever I saw steam rising from a Manhattan manhole or fog curling around a winter street lamp, I felt my stomach knot with an almost primordial fear. It is not just near the ocean. He is everywhere stories are told, in every shimmering mirage. In the end, I have to hope that writing this will warn you away, or at least make you think twice before chasing a myth. Truth be told, I sometimes still stand by my window and listen to the city sounds, imagining their waves. In those moments, I remind myself, you cannot defeat him with silence, but you can choose not to answer when he calls.